So, welcome everyone. I think we should start. And today I did not look up any other prayer to share or reflect upon. And I thought last time Shilpi had shared to reflect upon Radha's prayer. So, let us take up that. Yeah. So, it seems like this prayer was written for someone who was going to, in a play, I guess, this one. Somebody asked mother to write about Radha, and then on that mother first wrote in English, and then the next day she wrote the prayer in French, which later on Sri Aurobindo translated to English. So that's how it is, the historical sequence, if anyone wants that. Yeah. So I thought that these words were really beautiful, and maybe we can take something home. And that's why, so irrespective of the historical sequence, we would maybe totally focus on the words. I think that would be really nice. So I don't know, where do we start with? Maybe we can start. So this is the French one translated by Sri Aurobindo on 13 January. And on 12 January, she wrote it in English for this person who wanted to know about Radha and Krishna. So anyone, if you feel ready, we can read first this one, 12 January, and then take up the next one and then share reflections.
Yeah, I'll read. To complete what I told you yesterday about Radha's dance, I have noted this down as an indication of the thought and feeling Radha must have within her when she stands at the end in front of Krishna. Every thought of my mind, every emotion of my heart, every movement of my being, every feeling and every sensation, each cell of my body, each drop of my blood, all is yours, yours absolutely, yours without reserve. You can decide my life or my death, my happiness or my sorrow, my pleasure or my pain. Whatever you do with me, whatever comes to me from you, will lead me to the divine rapture.
So maybe taking a few moments to just look at this one. Yeah, and then this one, which mother wrote the next day in French, which is the translation by Sri Aurobindo. So if anyone would like to go through this, that would also be nice.
We could do it. O thou whom at first sight I knew for the Lord of my being and my God, receive my offering. Thine are all my thoughts, all my emotions, all the sentiments of my heart, all my sensations, all the movements of my life, each cell of my body, each drop of my blood. I am absolutely and altogether thine. thine without reserve. What thou wilt of me, that I shall be. Whether thou choosest for me life or death, happiness or sorrow, pleasure or suffering, all that comes to me from thee will be welcome. Each one of thy gifts will be always for me a gift, divine, bringing with it the supreme felicity.
I think in Mirabai's life also we have such examples, like grosser examples, since we are blinded to our own self, but it's good to see it in others. So where we see that how in her life uh, she was given, the poison or snake, and all that she took it with exactly this attitude, actually, that whatever you send me is a gift, is a divine gift, bringing with it supreme felicity. So it's another thing to just talk about it, and all of us know it's another thing to live it. And also, I think reading this prayer also tells us that how far uh, we are still from it, and yet also acknowledging that it's not that the aspiration may not be there, but the journey, as we were discussing in the last session, was journey is long and arduous, and again to and fro and back and forth will happen. But I think this is very beautiful, the inspiration towards such kind of purity and sincerity. And usually in our artis and Indian prayers and artis, we do say, tan man dhan sab tera, tera tujhko arpan, but not really, we don't really live it. Especially dhan is never tera, dhan is always mera. And also, to the tan also we are so attached, uh, and fearful and anxious of what would happen of me, this body, always fearful. And man anyway is always scattered. So really a long, long way to go. Always scattered in what we consider to be important. Yeah, but this is very liberating. This prayer is quite liberating. Yeah, any thoughts? Any thoughts, any reflections are welcome.
I was noticing recently that as much as like this very thing and to remember the mother and every moment, how that aspiration gets hijacked by a vital voice, as you mentioned yourself, like there's can be all kinds of fears or worries. And I've really been actively in the last couple of days really contemplating and praying and opening to, okay, how, to break this vital habit of something simple, like, in the very present moment, thinking about mother, like mother I'm eating or mother I'm walking. And still there can be this background of anxiety about, say, a future decision or something currently worrying me. And so how to remove that, and just have the pure aspiration and the really the purity of the me that has been aspiring, working, doing the self work, doing the sadhana, like just that identity really shift to the forefront.
Yeah, I think we have, maybe you would remember, we have taken it in many sessions, that it's like, these patterns, that background chatter is like it's a machine which has been running for ages. We don't know how long that machine has been running. So to just want it to just stop and completely disappear is a very impractical condition, which can never be fulfilled. The only thing is that this purity you were talking about, that how to have the purity in the forefront. So mother talks about being conscious, and consciousness has the force and everything. So we see that all of us, I'm sure all of us have such experiences, that we see the background patterns and anxiety in operation. It's at the back. I don't want to follow the dictate, but it's there, I see it. And just to mindfully hold it, hold space for it, like, okay, you can also be there in this room, we have enough room for you, but you have nothing really to do with it. Like, its dictates are not ruling your life. And that's how purity is in the forefront. Because what is purity if not this all embracing, welcoming consciousness with which you are saying, okay, you can be there, I see you, I see that you are not completely gone, and you don't have to go away anywhere. It's just that I'm not going to follow the dictates in that, consciousness in which I am present. Because you know that that is not beneficial. There is a knowing also parallelly present. And that's the purity. So it's completely fine to keep holding space for whatever arises, because there is no point of pushing it away. It's like a crying child is coming to you, and instead of just letting the child be next to you or wherever the child wants to be, you are trying to push away the child and say, please stop crying, please stop crying. He'll cry actually more because he's not been validated. But in this case, we are validating in the sense that we are giving it space. We see that it's there, it's not gone, and neither we are waiting for it to go. We are waiting for it to go only when it's disturbing and we are listening to its voice. But when we know that it's like past karmas and past associations which really take a long time, it's not a shortcut process. No matter how hard you may be trying, for none of us is it a shortcut process. But it's very it's like a blessing that within this life you have this opportunity, that, oh, I see that in background, it's there. So you can be sure that already something there in the foreground, because you yourself said, it's there in the background. And not to just buy into dictates. Why? Very commonsensical here also, because it has not been serving me well. And that's why in Buddhism, Tenzin Palmo uses the word skillful. So it's just skillful to step back from those patterns. They don't serve us well. That's why Sri Aurobindo uses the word intruders. All these vicious cycles are, patterns are like intruders, which we think they are going to give us something, but they really take us away from our true center. So be completely okay holding these past associations and past patterns, which in the background may have their own noise. But you have something else to do now. You have something different to focus on. They can be there. Just, I think holding is very important. And that's what we talk about, kindness. Kindness and compassion first towards our own self. Because all of us are a mixture of darkness and light. No one is just pure light. No one. And that's why light has to be there, because there is darkness. Otherwise, light won't be called as light.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I also noticed, or actually someone mentioned to me, and then I've been also exploring that, of how even like this word holding, right? There's the holding space, and there's, for example, when I'm holding the mother, holding onto her hand, and noticing that there's a kind of holding so tight when even though I don't want to listen to as these background vital voices, for example, yet there's this grabbing onto mother and holding onto her so tight, and to allow this, if you want to call it psychic, or I don't know if it's a psyche, but anyway, this more calm, wider aspect of myself to come forward, that is allowing her to hold me, instead of me holding her so tight, but somehow like letting go of the holding. Yeah, I'm still in that experience and that exploration, so it's just, I can just kind of find words for it, but I found it powerful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yes. Yeah. I think we have to remember again and again, and there are many, many things for us to remind ourselves again and again, that as we were discussing in that prayer, November 20, 1914, I guess, that mother says that even for the best, this process has to be long and slow. So not to get really frustrated by the slowness of it, or the coming and again going and coming and again going of it, because that's what it is about. That's why we need perseverance. That's why we need to have a lot of perseverance, as mother says, because this process is long. There will be back and forth. So if we will lose our calm so easily, and get frustrated so easily, then it will be difficult. Again, it's not impossible, but to know that it's a long term process. Like if we have a chronic illness, I can relate it to that if we know that it's a long term illness, then when we really come to terms with it, then we know that, okay, I can live with it. I still can have a good life with it. I still have many things which are good. So it's almost like that, that one day by day, moment by moment. I was meeting somebody who has been diagnosed with a certain illness, like a chronic, life threatening illness. And she was sharing that if I think about what will happen of me, would I have to live with this illness forever? Then I really begin to panic and fear. But then immediately when I notice myself going so far and come back to the present moment, and I see, okay, I ask myself, aaj kya problem hai? What is the problem today? You are okay, you are able to eat well, you are joyous, body is still operational. So what is the big deal today? So when we take these steps very moment by moment, and that's where the Buddhist practice of mindfulness, or coming back, bringing the mind back to the home in the body, that's where that is really, really helpful. Because day by day, step by step, moment by moment, we are okay, we are progressing, each one of us is progressing. So what's the rush? And you are not the same person that you were a few years ago. Ripening has happened, evolution has happened. Still, maybe, there are many, many steps to go, but we are going on and not off. And then you are okay. Many things to be thankful for.
It's interesting. Again, when I go to, coming home to the body, the Buddhist practice, or it's in many, I've heard it through many teachers, and it's beautiful. What I notice is when I'm in a process of some big change or decision making or crossroads, then when I come home to the body, that habituated background vital voice makes being in the body and bringing my attention to the body very uncomfortable, because the vital has created that discomfort in my body, right? So then I'm often lost with, like, okay, how do I get the body to calm down? And so I call her, try and bring this presence, the wideness forward, so the body can calm down. So being present, the whole experience can be much more of what we just read, or what mother was saying, what Radha would have had, so that's really a sense of connection and yet, yeah, I don't know if you or anyone else has had this experience where like, oh, you come back to the body, but the body's not feeling like a very comfortable place.
Yeah, yeah. So we are going to listen to something on exactly what you are sharing. Maybe that would clear something for us. Is it audible to all of you? I can't hear it.
No.
Okay. Yeah, now it should be okay. No, no, just a second.
We always say that let us not get caught in the past and the future. Let us go back to the present moment. And this is a question about that. How can I stay in the present moment when the present moment feels unbearable? That's a good question. Anyone who knows the practice of mindfulness knows that you have to go home to the present moment. When you go home to the present moment, you can find two kinds of situation. The first kind of situation is there are so many conditions of happiness available in the here and the now. When you breathe in and bring your mind home to your body, you are established in the present moment. And you notice there are so many refreshing and healing elements available in the present moment. There's also many conditions of happiness available in the present moment. And with that awareness to generate a feeling of joy and happiness is very easy. That you can do in order to nourish yourself with joy and happiness. So that is the first thing you encounter when you go back to the present moment. The second situation is that when you go back to the present moment, you might encounter a feeling of pain, a feeling of a painful emotion that is in you. In fact, a painful feeling, a painful emotion manifests from time to time. But when it begins to manifest, we don't like to be there, so we try to run away, pretending that it is not there. So no one is there in order to take care of the painful feeling, the painful emotion. So going back to the present moment here is no longer to recognize the elements of joy and happiness, but to have a chance to take care of the pain in ourselves and to transform it. So even if the present moment is unbearable, to go back to that moment is the only chance for us to do something in order to calm it down and to transform it. Most of people don't do that because they are afraid that when they come home to themselves and touch the pain inside, they will be overwhelmed by the suffering. And that is why their practice is to run away. Imagine something about the future to forget. go back to the past to forget. But the past and the future, they are like images, not reality. Only the present moment is real. Many people try to cover up the pain inside, not only by going back to the past or running to the future. Imagine that there will be some hope, some end of suffering in the future, but that cannot last long. And most people try to cover up the suffering inside by the practice of consumption. We read magazines, we watch television, we find something to eat, we listen to the music, we pick up the phone to talk. Everything we do because we hope that by doing these things we don't have to confront the suffering in us. And we allow that pain to continue to grow in us. So the practice of mindfulness helps us to go home to the present moment. Even the moment is not pleasant, but it is in that very moment that we can understand the suffering and that we can find a way in order to calm it down and to transform it. So next time when you find the present moment not pleasant, don't think that running away from it is the best way. No, it may be a chance. So stay in that moment, look deeply into the nature of your suffering. If you know how to practice mindful breathing or mindful walking, generating the energy of mindfulness, and then that energy of mindfulness generated by the practice help you to be strong enough to recognize, encounter the pain, and embrace it tenderly. And embracing your pain tenderly, in a few minutes you can calm it down. And if there are other practitioners practicing with you, and then you can profit from the energy of mindfulness and compassion, getting in touch with the suffering bring about understanding of suffering and the energy of compassion. Understanding and compassion have the power to heal you and to heal the people who happen to be around you at that time.
Yeah, does that resonate with what you were asking and sharing, Swapna?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I was like, oh, look, she planned the session. She already knew what I was thinking and going through.
I didn't know
In the
that. I
sense,
just pulled it
no,
up.
I
Yeah.
know. I just mean that's how much it, of course, nails the hit on hits the nail on the head. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. It's so synchronistic, and I was following his words, and as he was speaking because it's exactly what's happening, and just noticing that little breakthrough of, okay, If I'm just really noticing and being mindful with my movements and how my body is moving in this moment, then the ability to have the strength that seemed impossible before, but now becomes possible, the strength to be with my suffering and tenderness, using his words. Like, it was just a few moments, but it was
Yeah,
good to touch into that. So
yeah,
thank you. It's like
very powerful. I'll share this video also, and you can maybe go through the whole.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one to save somewhere for the times the body feels so uncomfortable or a moment feels uncomfortable, because it's like he coaches you through it, which is so beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Anyone else wants to add on anything? So I think this can be a prayer for a lifetime, but before reaching the lifetime, I think day to day we have to remind ourselves uh, of this prayer, because we forget. And as he was sharing, as Thighnathan was sharing, that when we are in touch with our own pain and we are understanding our suffering, then we can also realize the suffering. So when I'm understanding the suffering, then I'm able to go to the roots of it. And most often than not, we will find that whenever we are focused on the little me and its expectations and demands and unfulfilled wishes, and this was not done, and that, that all really, really bogs us down. Really. And that's why Mother says that an aimless life is a miserable life, and depending upon the quality of your aim will depend upon the quality of life. And that is why the importance of giving ourselves an aim which is much larger and expanded than my little life. And in front of that, my little life actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that's really very important, because that every time, kind of, whenever you are pulled down in your little self, and if there is a higher aim waiting every new day, every moment, the higher aim is waiting for you, which you have given yourself. So that higher aim doesn't let you get pulled into that swamp, which parallelly exists. It's not that it is disappearing. The limited me is not disappearing. It's always there to pull you down. But you have something bigger to do, so you have something more than your little self and little problems to do. And that really not only heals your own self, but also I think it really pushes us forward towards the right direction, because there is no end to focusing on our little self and its problems, which are there for each one of us, not only attending the session but also people who are unaware. We are just full of our problems. There is no end to our problems, and if we keep waiting that I will give myself a higher aim when my problems will end, that day will never come. And we don't realize that being absorbed in our little self is the cause of our misery. And as Mother says, that whenever you are feeling miserable, again you must have gotten absorbed in yourself. Me, my demand, my expectation, that person said this to me, I was being treated like that. All that really bogs us down, each one of us. And how long, one can ask, that how long will I continue to focus on this? I don't want to. It's too much of a trouble, really. Drains up so much of energy and unnecessary mental scatter. So then asking yourself that what would I like to give myself to? Wherever you are, you can offer your presence. It's not that we have to wait for some future purpose to unfold, not even that. As Mother says, whatever we are doing, if we can do it an act of self-giving. We were reading yesterday. That was really very beautiful, where Nolinita was sharing his prose of love and aspiration. There he was sharing that for the joy of giving yourself, and whenever we are at times miserable, we can see that some part of us has not offered itself. It's wanting, 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 wanting. And wherever there is begging and wanting, there is misery. Wherever there is, okay, how can I offer my presence in this, whatever, wherever I am, then there is joy. You're not wanting anything for yourself, not even thinking that, oh, I'm not wanting anything for myself. Not even that. It's just that knowing that this little me inside me will be there, its unfulfilled wishes will be there, but I can just let it be. So giving it space, letting it be, and focusing myself on something which really deserves more attention and energy. Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to take if there are any reflections. But I thought it was a little essay. I thought we could, since it is about uh, complete surrender of each part and particle of our being to the divine, which is corresponding with sincerity. So I just kind of stumbled upon this, and I thought maybe we could read it today together. Again, it is from Nalini Kant Gupta essays, and yeah. So if there are reflections, please share. If not, you can unmute and read, and we can reflect over this in the context of the prayer also.
Should I read?
Yes, please. Yeah.
The base of sincerity. The great, perhaps the greatest secret of life, Uttamam Rahasyam, to quote, to quote the familiar phrase of Gita, consists in finding, in coming in contact with, and remaining in permanent contact with the center of our being, the nucleus of our living. And curiously, if we are alert and observant enough, we discover that this mysterious thing is not very far to seek. There is hardly any developed human being who has not had some time or other in the course of his life a feeling or perception that he is free, he is happy in a miraculous way, as if he is above or away from vicissitudes of external life. Nothing touches him, and he is unique and self fulfilled. He is on the summit of his being, or in the topmost form of his nature. However fugitive that experience may be, it is the kernel of his being that reveals itself for a moment, the central consciousness that moves, guides, inspires, and supports his whole life and all his other lives too, although till now from behind the veil. That is what we call the divine in the individual, the inner controller, Antaryami, the conscious being ever seated within the heart, Purusha. Uh, Purusha, I don't know what it's written. Purusha Sada Har
Radi, yeah, Sanivista. I don't
Sanivista.
know, something in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Actually, again, this was something I was thinking today, like up to today with the prayer which we were reading. Uh, it doesn't feel like you're not able to be that, but you're not able to sustain that. That expression, that feeling, that knowingness, and that ki only you divine, that does touch you, but it does not remain. Ye that is where like I feel that that feels yours, and for few moments you also feel that only this, but then it goes away somehow.
Yeah. I think that's our practice. that's the practice to stabilize that, and that's why it's long and the journey is long.
Yeah. But it does feel like it's yours, it is the truth. It is your real, it is the home, you feel like, yeah, that's the home where you feel so much at peace and, yeah, practice.
Yeah, anyone else? Anything to share in this paragraph?
I think one other piece that I've been seeing then in this passage echoes and in my experience recently is this as I try to bridge this habitual vital identity with more of the heart or psychic, and the one that has done so much of the what can I call it, the yoga, the work over the years. It's to see that more heart-centered identity is it's just willing to have that wideness,
Yeah, would anyone want to read the next paragraph, next lines? This much. So I think in front of us is the path, what Shweta was sharing, that one has to stabilize oneself in it. It's not that we don't have glimpses of it. We all have, as Nolinida is also sharing. But that is why practice, that is why sadhana. Otherwise, there is no sadhana required if there is just like one click and done. Because we have to continuously keep coming back to it. So that's what I think in this one he shares a little bit. Yeah.
I can read if
Yeah,
need.
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once Once this center has been aspected in whatever manner, to whatever degree, even faintly and feebly, one has always to come back to it, as the mariner to the polar star. Try to connect all external happenings as well as one's inner movements with this fountainhead. That is to say, one must think, feel, or do nothing that is contrary to the truth it is, that is not in accord with its rhythm and law. Indeed, one must always endeavor to think only that thought, feel only that feeling, do only that act which is spontaneous and inevitable outcome and expression of that innermost and topmost reality. Yeah, so beautiful. And yeah, that is the journey. Yeah, that reminder. And then like losing it for a little while, then again coming back. And also during your struggles to remind yourself about this, वही है, the ego battles and you lose it. And then, like खुद के साथ ही you do dialoguing and you understand, oh my God, you again lost it. And you again, how this is again coming from the ego. And uh, it becomes like, somebody is guiding you from inside to not go to the surface level, emotions, and uh, go deeper. And you know uh, just function from that depth and inner voice. Yeah, so that thing is like constantly there guiding you. Yeah, so I understand this now. It's so beautiful.
Mother also mentions this aspect of unease. I think it is very well mentioned here that nothing one must do which creates, uh, as mother says, all the actions, all the speech must pass through this psychic mirror. And if you, because that would notice anything which is not in alignment with the inner truth, with it not in alignment with this inner purity which all of us have. So just a constant reflection is also very necessary. And we would know, there is something in us that knows which particular word, which action, which thought was against this inner alignment. Yes, Swapna, you wanted to share?
Yes, I, what I was saying before about, like noticing this wideness, the willingness. It's like the willingness for the wideness, willingness to do this passage that Nolini Da is suggesting, or advising. It's like that's actually the qualities of the present me, not just present in this moment, yet um, the vital identity has so much past in it. And I hadn't really noticed that before. And automatic associations and things people may have said, but this present me, I'd never seen it that way. Like the present me is something that absolutely wants and is willing and sees that, it has the lens in place. But it's very much about the meat, like if it's like today or this whoever this body, this life is, with its decades of experience and prayer and sadhana and ups and downs, all of it, right? But it's hard for me to articulate it yet. It's, for me, it felt very profound really to notice, like, oh, I kept thinking it's something that'll come in the future. Eventually I'll be able to sustain it for longer periods, or have even the discipline or the willingness by some future moment of grace. But actually, simply by allowing that aspect of myself to come forward more and more, notice she's got all this equipment and skill set, or you use the word skillful in terms of Tenzin Palmo. So it's like the skills are there. Yeah, it's quite relieving.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the last bit. I think it would be nice to complete this. Yeah, this much. So anyone, if Shweta wants to, Taru, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to read, but
Read,
yeah, I
read.
mean,
Oh, you
okay.
go ahead. Yeah.
That is the definition of sincerity, to be transparent and single pointed to your soul consciousness, to your deity, and that also is the only way by which there can be realized in you. Did I read it wrong? And that also is the only way by which there can be realized in you the highest and largest, the most intimate and absolute harmony you are capable of, and that is demanded of you. The perfect organization of the individual life can be obtained in and through the harmony inherent in the central reality, in the natural order of its activities. In the scheme or pattern laid out in the inmost consciousness, each element has its own orbit and its own quantum of energy
Each force its allotted function. The will in each is exactly commensurable with what should be the expression in it of the total reality. Each is the whole and rounded articulation of an aspect or figure put forth by the central truth in its self-display. As in a musical theme, each note has a definite pitch, amplitude, tone, which give it its perfect form. In order to constitute a common pattern, the highest pitch, the largest amplitude, or the most vibrant tone is not needed. Not only not needed, would be a bar on the contrary. Even so, the individual man, when he attains perfection, realizes in himself a harmony which gives the true expression of all his limbs, the fullest and fairest expression of each and every one as demanded by the divine role destined for him. Thank
So I think a few again good pointers for us when he shares the definition of sincerity. Again, that is the definition of sincerity, to be transparent and single pointed to your soul consciousness. So, totally loyal to the inner divine and not loyal to the ego consciousness, which we usually are, and we suffer a lot because of that. And now that we want to change our habits and the life that we live, if we want to, then this is a absolute requirement, total loyalty to the inner Godhead, which we know, which we only know. Always we have the knowing. Whenever we turn our attention within ourselves, it is impossible that we don't know that whatever was not in alignment with our deeper truth. We may begin to fool ourselves, we may begin to be dishonest with ourselves, but it is impossible that we don't know. We always know, but we are blinded. We are blinded by our own dishonesty. We are blinded by our own demands, that we can't see it. So then it's really helpful if somebody shows it up to me, that this is what you are up to. Although we may not like that person that much, that time it may hurt badly, but really this is a big help. Yeah, and then we can be in harmony with our own self. So this is also very beautiful, that by being loyal to our own inner truth, which we would know individually, that is the only way by which there can be realized in you the highest and largest, the most intimate and absolute harmony you are capable of, and is not only capable of but is demanded of you. So this is the demand of universe from each one of us. Why? Because we are capable. Whenever a teacher demands something, I'm just using an example, from a student or a pupil, he always knows that the student may not know, but the teacher knows that the student is capable of it. And that's why mother says that we are always given those challenges for which in exact proportion we have the strength also. We may not know that we have the strength. We may have to dig it out. We may need some time to really come bring it alive to the forefront, but we have it. We have it. So that's where we reach harmony in our own selves. The perfect organization of the individual life can be obtained in and through the harmony inherent in the central reality. So, whenever we are operating from our truth, whenever each one begins to operate from his own inner truth, then there will be harmony in not only families, not only relationships, but globally in between countries. And that's where Sri Aurobindo has indicated in his ideal of human unity that we can't skip this absolute necessary step. And instead of waiting when will the other person get to his truth, all that I have to do is abide by my own truth. That's the biggest social service I can offer. So this I believe is, really, like, again he's pointing at the crux of the matter. And immediately the moment where our attention shifts to, but in my relationship the other one is not aligned with the truth, we have to bring ourselves back and really, align our own self with the truth, because there also a lot of work lies unfinished. Yeah. And then he's describing that harmony within, like there are notes and each note is different, but each note is very important for creating a basic musical tone. It's not just required that only the highest pitch is there. All kind of gradations of pitches are required in order to, and not only the tones but also the gaps in between the tones, they also add on to the music. Not only add on, they make the music. I mean, there won't be any music without the gaps. So each part has its own role to play. Yeah. So when the individual man, when he attains perfection within our own self, through all the work that we are doing within ourselves, the individual man, when he attains perfection, realizes in himself a harmony which gives the true expression of all his limbs. So the mind is doing the right purpose, working for the right king. The feelings are working for the right king. The body is working for the right king. All are loyal to one soul king, the soul consciousness. Everyone is not just their own king, which usually they are. The fullest and fairest expression of each and every one as demanded by the divine rule destined for him. So this is almost, he's taking us towards being truly our own self. Often we ask, how can I be my true self? This is the way, I think. It's impossible to avoid this path, that without getting in touch with my innermost truth, without aligning my each action, each word, each feeling in front of that innermost truth, if I demand fulfillment in life, that is not going to happen. And that's why all of us, no matter how rich or poor or uh, how in elite position we may be, uh, we we know how badly human beings are unfulfilled, because we are not living as loyal servants to our inner truth. We are living servants to our slaves to our ego consciousness, and that's misery, that's suffering. Yeah, so anyone wants to add any last comments, reflections?
Yeah, something just struck me, about like this inner truth. And I can't even, the phrase you used it from his passage of just it feeling like the real me. I was just thinking how, because again, recently I've been really focused on, okay, how and what is it really to be my best friend, to really stay by me. And the quality of it when I am really just with me in one of my challenging moments is just really solo, all by myself, right? But when I'm in those solo moments able to really stand by me and be my really loving, kind self, it feels so natural. Like just something so simple. Like it actually just feels like a truer, much more flowing, much more I mean, just like when you look at a flower or a small child, it just is. So the quality of it, yeah, it's pretty, yeah, it's really beautiful and grace and so much ease in it, which I appreciate.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes. Kabir has this couplet where, in many locations he uses the word sahaj, and sahaj is easy or effortless. What you were sharing, that uh, when we are our easy self, that doesn't mean that in the process of, progress and sadhana, we will always be in ease, but we can always get back to that ease at the click of a finger. We know how to access it, although there would be many, moments of ups and downs in between. But he talks about this effortless ease, like it's very simple. But since the mind is habituated to complicated things, it misses the most simple. And that's why we need reminders to come back to that simplicity. And as mother says, in one of the sayings, mother says, spirituality is a supreme simplicity. And all the time we are just spending more and more time to be just more complicated. This degree and that degree, and how to make myself more complicated, only to come back to a simple self again.
Yes, and I'm just connecting the dots with, like, if someone around me says, "Oh, but you've been doing yoga for so long, or you've listened to all these calls, but still you get angry, or you still doubt, or whatever," and I see that it has power of me, because my own vital, when it forgets that ease, is doing that very thing, right? Has that same voice with myself, and thank you for saying it. Exactly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times you have to, dust yourself off, pick up, and go back to exploring the ease and the wideness. It's like I just see that in, like, the connection of it all, like Thich Nhat Hanh's tenderness for those times when it feels so difficult and not easy. Allowing that tenderness just to hold those times means it facilitates a quicker onset, if you'd like, of being the wider, more natural self. So it starts to flow. Whereas I guess before I used to struggle at almost like compartments. It's like, oh, today's a bad day, or this part of my life right now where the vital's acting up and I'm believing my bad thoughts. That's one compartment. Now, how do I get out of this very hard compartment into that more spacious one? Or when will mother come and rescue me? And that makes me just hold onto her so tight, and instead just seeing it just flows, and just allowing that natural self, through what Nolinita is saying, through sadhana, through everything, just to flow and open up, kind of naturally open up into the spaciousness.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes. Yeah, any more reflections? Any last comments? Anyone?
Yeah, just wanted to say that, when I read this prayer after, I think, years, right? It's just the sincerity aspect, what you took up, and I'm so grateful for that. Just hit me that what is my possibility? And yet I make it so hard that it feels so far. So when I say every cell of my body, and I say I am the body, am I in touch with my, I don't know, inner being, with my body, with my vital? Not really. Like in bits and pieces, like how Shweta was sharing, how Sapna was sharing, but we keep missing it, we keep losing it, and that's a journey, and that's okay. But just the sincerity, right? Like even Mother in the sunlit path, it's mentioned that if there's one thing that we can have that would make that difference, or the one thing that because of the lack of which we keep missing it. She said it was sincerity, right? Sincerity, and she has given 4 types of sincerity. Because the first time I read it after a long time, it felt like a Bollywood couplet that, each cell of my body, blood of my blood, kind of a thing. Like it seemed exaggerated. And yet it cannot be an exaggeration, right? If it's mother who has written it. So just the fact that it's even sad that it feels exaggerated to me. So where is the lack? And that is sincerity, that I know, and yet I choose not to know, and I just say, oh, these are just words, or these are just exaggerations. So that's me who's making it far, and it's not far. And yeah, so just that. So thank you for taking up sincerity in such details. It's really, it's like, it's so lost to just get lost in the beauty of things a lot of times and miss what is being said. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then, if not anything more, thank you for turning up, everyone. And I would share the link for Tignathan's teaching and also the link for this particular article that we shared so that we can again go over it whenever we wish. So happy practice and thanks again. Thank you.